So today we're going to learn a bit more about what Peter did in the early days after Jesus had gone back to be with his Father in heaven. Now, Peter had been traveling around the country teaching people about Jesus and helping them learn how to follow him. And one day on his travels, Peter arrived at a place called Lydda. And while Peter was in Lydda, he met a man called Aeneas. Now, Aeneas was paralyzed. Here he is. So he couldn't move his arms or his legs. He couldn't walk or stand up or even sit up by himself. He would have needed help to get dressed or to get his food and even to eat it, and everything he had to do in his daily life. And this poor man had been like that for 8 years. That's longer than some of you have been born. Well, we've come across people like this in our Bible stories before, so you won't be surprised when I tell you what happened, but think about this carefully. These are the words that Peter said to Aeneas. Aeneas, Peter said to him, "Jesus Christ heals you. Get up and roll up your mat." Now, the important thing about Peter's words are this. He said, Jesus Christ heals you. Not I, Peter, heal you, but Jesus Christ heals you. You see, Jesus had given Peter the authority to say those words, but it was still Jesus who was doing the healing. And Jesus is God after all. So, of course, Aeneas immediately got up, completely healed. And he did roll up his mat, just as Peter had told him to do. Well, when this news got out in Lydda and the towns nearby, all the people in that area were amazed. But Peter, he made it clear that it was the power of Jesus that had done this. Of course, crowds came. They wanted to see Aeneas and they wanted to see Peter. And Peter told them all about Jesus, how Jesus had died, but how God had raised him to life again. And because of the miracle of Aeneas, lots of people began to realize that what Peter was saying about Jesus was all true. And lots of people decided that they wanted to follow Jesus. Now, while all of this was going on in Lydda, over in a nearby town called Joppa, which is a seaside town, there lived a group of people who were already followers of Jesus. Now, one of those people was a lady named Tabitha, and this is Tabitha's house. Let's have a look inside. Here's Tabitha. Tabitha was a follower of Jesus herself, who spent a lot of time doing good and helping the poor. Tabitha made clothes for people. Now, in those days, clothes weren't made in factories and sewing machines hadn't even been invented. So Tabitha would spend hours making clothes for people, sewing them by hand. And she was well known for making very beautiful clothes. Now, we can't know because we weren't there, but there could have been pink ones or maybe blue ones, or ones with little flowers, a bit like Tabitha's bedspread, or perhaps some with quite big flowers. Maybe there were plain ones or stripy ones, and maybe the stripes came in different colours. And even more different colours. And that was what Tabitha did all day. She spent her time sewing clothes for other people. But one day Tabitha became sick, and then she became even more sick, so that she had to go to bed. And then her friends came to be with her and to look after her. But Tabitha got worse. And then she died. And Tabitha's friends were so sad when that happened. But then they heard that Peter was in Lydda nearby. So they sent 2 men to Lydda to go and find Peter. And when they got there, they found him and they said, Peter, come with us, please, come with us quickly. Well, of course, Peter went with them and he travelled with them to Joppa. When he got there, he went into Tabitha's house and he went into Tabitha's room and he saw her body on the bed and he saw her friends who were crying because they were so sad because Tabitha, their friend, had died. And her friends wanted to show Peter all the beautiful clothes that Tabitha had made for people while she was alive. And then Peter asked her friends to wait outside so that he could just be in the room by himself with Tabitha's body. So just by himself with Tabitha's body on the bed, he prayed to God. And then he said, Tabitha, get up. And Tabitha opened her eyes. And Peter took her by the hand and helped her up. Tabitha was alive again. Then Peter called all Tabitha's friends and the followers of Jesus from Joppa to see that Tabitha, who had been dead, was indeed alive again. And they were so happy. Their friend Tabitha had been dead and now she was alive. What a miracle. Now, of course, a miracle like that doesn't stay a secret for very long. And it was such an amazing miracle that very soon people from all over Joppa heard about it. And lots of people came to see Tabitha and to see Peter. And again, Peter told them all about Jesus, how he had died for their sins, but then how God had raised him back to life again, conquering death. And because of the miracle of Tabitha, again, people believed what Peter said about Jesus, and lots more people became followers of Jesus. So the important thing to remember from this week's Bible story are quite similar to what we talked about last week. Jesus is still working in the world, but also people trusted in Jesus when they found out about his amazing power and they became his followers. And we too can trust Jesus and follow him because he is amazing. So now we're going to do our craft to help us remember the story and tell it to other people. Tabitha will be able to sit up and then she'll be able to stand up. And then behind the door will be the crowd that came to see Tabitha. And then you've got Peter and you've also got some of the clothes that Tabitha made. So all you need to do is colour in the bits and pieces. So you've got a piece like that and then colour in the crowd. And then you'll need to stick that behind the door. And then when you've coloured Tabitha, if you just fix her together with the split pins or whatever you've got to fix her together, a piece of string is fine, like that. There's little holes there to fix her, and then there's a little hole just by the bottom of the bed to fix her feet. Okay, so if you want to come off mute and go on to gallery view again, then we can all see each other and hear each other, and I'll come off spotlight.